Right, jet setters. I'm going to run through a few things. This is one of the high conviction killer patterns that I look for. This is the and it's really starting to. It's a bit of a kind of a game of follow the leader in the markets at the moment on this one. This is the US 2-year notes, right? In terms of price. See what's going on here, right? Right? Where we have a big, high conviction move, right? Followed by a bit of consolidation. I guess that's one way of putting it. Going on at the top, and then it just comes down, falls down, and fills the gap. That's one way of putting it, right? If you do a massive candle, right, you'd have a massive, engulfing bullish here. You'd have a massive engulfing bearish here, and you'd basically have like some kind of like, short-legged doji as opposed to those long-legged creatures along the top here, right? For a whole series of them. So this is the 2 years, right? Now I've been short these 2 years since October last year. So that's around about here, right? Basically when it started to, a bit after it started to break down. My broker put me onto it. Thanks, buddy. He said, mate, look at those 2-year bonds. They are, it's not sexy, but it's solid. And he was dead right. So the interesting thing about this is the leader of the pack, right? And we kind of look at what some of the other markets that are doing that have been and are still playing catch up, right? Here's the Russell 2000. We'll come back to these lines in a bit, right? But look what it's doing, right? It's got a big one to fill, right? It's done the same thing. Big gap up, big, rocket up, whole lot of sideways action, and it's starting to come down, okay? That's, to me, that's where it's going to, okay? How far is that from here? Oh, easy 13%, okay? That's what's going on. Let's look at some little underlying suckers that have been doing this. Let's look at Jeff Bezos. How's this? Same thing, right? Got a big leg up, right? We got a whole lot of sideways action, okay? It's having a pause, but in my mind, on a technical reading, obviously there's other factors. That's the likely read of that price action. Let's look at Spotify, shall we? Spotify. Where are you, little Spotify? Let's see what you're up to. Oh, surprise, surprise. So you've had a big leg up. I mean, this one's a bit messier, right? But you spread it out. It's the same thing, right? A big warning sign is when these highs get lower. That confirms it even more. That's Spotify. So I've got Amazon, Spotify. Who's on my list? Let's look at this Peloton. This other piece of rubbish, right? Right, there we go. Okay, so it's had a big move up. As I said, the real confirming one is when you get these lower highs coming in, breaks the neckline, and look at that, straight down like a stone, right? That's Peloton. What have we got? Oh, here's another one. I mean, they're all over the place, these ones at the moment, particularly in that whole tech sector. Afterpay, it's an Australian company where this shoots right up like non-stop. You can see like it's only a young company, right? It's choppy, right? Here it goes up without hesitation, right? Here we've got sideways actions, but also the lower highs, and what's it doing? It is going back to $40. If you're long this, right, you got rocks in your head. If you're short it might be a little bit too late, but probably not. What have we got? So that's Amazon, Spotify, Afterpay, Peloton. Let's look at silver, because it's not just limited to tech stocks. It happens in other markets as well. Right? Look at this. This is dangerous. Right? Big shoot up, sideways action, but with the highs coming down. The neckline kind of supported there. That one is headed here. You know, I'm pretty confident. If you're long here, just keep a close stop. If you want to buy options, good time to buy options, right? I mean, I'm not sure what the volatility, the implied vol in silver options is. I rarely buy options. They're a waste of money. 99% of the options trading I do, I've consistently made good money from it. It's all short. Having been in the industry, retail punters buying vol just get ripped off. It's much better to sell it. If you're going to buy vol, buy it on index. If you're selling vol, sell it on underlying assets. That's my experience anyway. So that's silver. Let's go out. Let's have a look. Let's see if it's done it again. Let's go back a bit. Oh, here we go. There is another one here. Here's one I prepared earlier. Right. Let's wait for the chart. Yeah, how's that? That's a beauty, hey? Should change this to logarithmic, really. There we go. Exactly the same thing. Up, right? Trending down within like a, with a bit of support there. And then what does it do when it falls down? It goes right to the bottom. Sure, it bounces back, right? But this move here, right? That's exactly what it's doing here. That's exactly what when we go back to our, 2-year notes, that's what it's done. Right? Sure, there's been all this stuff here, but even you can see it even here, like on a bigger scale here. It had this big, didn't come back all the way, did it? But interest rates are a bit different, but it certainly came back to that level, where it shot up, rolled over, tanked. Okay, it really is a great setup. I hate that word setup to look for. Let's have a look at gold. Here we go, hey? See, it's doing a similar thing. Not as dramatic as silver, I have to say, right? But it is essentially the same thing, right? Where it's had a very strong move up. This is back in 2018. Sorry, 2000, before up this 2011, this high. Rolled over with the whole series of lower highs, right? And then it comes crashing down, and it basically comes back to pretty much where it broke out from. So for gold, we're looking at like $1,340. What's that? That's like 25% drop. I mean, I can't believe that gold is still hanging up here, given the move in yields. It tanked down here, right, when yields started moving up. I guess it's hanging up here. I think largely actually because of the inflation fears, but this move here, that was the inflation move. That was like rates down. Everyone goes, yeah, well, rates down, that's going to cause inflation. That's what the central banks want. Let's buy gold, and so they buy it, right? And they push gold up, 70%. That was the inflation move, right? It's over. That's in my mind. I'm short gold, so I'm talking my own book. I think if you're long, you want to have some pretty careful stops in there, because when it moves down, you can see you will be slaughtered, right? On that one. So that's the US. So we see it everywhere, right? Let's have a look at Bitcoin, one of my favorites. See what it's doing. It's got one too, right? See there? It's a bit different, right? It hasn't quite had the confirmation of this, but it's you can see it's the same dynamic is going on, where it has a big shoot up, right? Has this sideways move. Okay. Let's go down to like a daily. That might give us a bit more colour in here. guess on the wide, it's kind of that. You know, but if it follows the textbook for these explosive moves and in the sideways, when it's so explosive with no pullback, the odds are that it's not a consolidation. People will think it's a consolidation because they will say, look, this is your classic bull flag, right? So they draw a little flag there, right? Let's just colour it in a bit. They say, look, here's a flagpole. There's a flag, and it's going to go up here, right? So just as it went from 13,000 to 40,000, right? It's going to go from 40,000 to, depending on whether you just look outright dollars or percentages, it's going sky high, right? That's one read of it. That's not my experience in these. That's not how I've made money out of these patterns. You can see it again here, okay, right? And it didn't fill in the whole break. Right? I guess where do you want to measure that explosive one from? I mean, that's one place, but it's the same scenario where you've got a big run up, especially like those lower highs against like a neckline, and then it plummets, right? So this one's a little bit different. We can see it everywhere, like whether it's Bitcoin, Amazon, Spotify, Afterpay, silver, gold, Peloton, the US 2 years, the Russell 2000. Even if you look at the NASDAQ, let's have a look at the NASDAQ. I think there's a bit of a shadow of one going on there. There is potentially, I mean, this is an index, right? So it's a bit different, but we can see how it's already done it, like a little bit, and maybe in here. This is probably a bit of a stretch, right? I think that one is a stretch. That one's a little bit more going according to spec. Let's go down a little bit finer. But we can see it's done the same thing where it's had a big impulsive move up, sideways, and then it comes back down. And it came back down. When I fall down, like it comes crashing down, right? It's not a gentle one, right? It's not like this, right? It's not like this. You know, it's more like that, but there's a lot of vertical moves and even gapping. I mean, look at that, right? You know, these are nasty. See, there's a gap in there, right? That's why I should trade the futures. I remember some idiot, he used to call futures the fake market. Well, he was an idiot. I notice he doesn't do it anymore. The futures is the real market. If you're unable to trade for 16 out of 24 hours and these moves are on, then you are a sitting duck to get smashed. If you're going to trade positions, make sure you get a futures account. So that's the NASDAQ. What about the S&P 500? To see what's there. I'm not sure if, I think this is probably a bit of a stretch on this one. If you kind of take it off, let's look at a longer time scale. You know, there is a bit of it going on, right? And this is taking off the log scale, right? So that exaggerates it, right? So this might be, you know, a bit of a stretch, but I mean, you can really see this move. It's very strong, very impulsive, and we are possibly, right? Possibly starting to see that. I'm wary of that. I'm not a big buyer into that at the moment. I just sell into that. I don't think that's a compelling setup the way I see it. But the ones that I really see are that gives this one a bit more credibility, because obviously the Russell is very clearly following the lead of the 2-year bonds, right? And the rest of the markets and some individual stocks have been doing it at the pointy end of the spectrum, right? So we've got it at the pointy end of the spectrum with the big companies like Spotify, Amazon. I haven't looked at Haven't looked at Facebook. Let's look at Facebook. Might have. Hang on, let's have a look. Where is Meta? Oh my God. Changing these names. Let's look at here. Facebook. Right, let's have a look here. Wow, that just looks outright ugly, doesn't it? I would say that it's done it in there, right? Yeah, it's a bit like that, right? It certainly had a big explosive move up. Let's go to a daily. Yeah, you can see how it goes, right? When there's these, because this move here, it just went up and it just had very little, like a bit, very kind of marginal retracement, and so it kind of had that big move up. We've got these lower highs, right? And then when it comes down, it's just getting set up. And yeah, sure, this was on an announcement that, you know, the technical analysis didn't see happening, but this is very much a pretty clear, you know, rollover scenario. You know, like that. Oh my God, you know, big move down, series of lower highs. Started doing the, you know, lower high, lower low, and then when it breaks, it really well and truly breaks. So, you know, so we've seen it at the pointy end of the spectrum with Amazon, Spotify, you know, there's tech stocks like, you know, Peloton, Amazon. You can see it a little bit possibly starting to unfold in Bitcoin. We can see it well and truly unfolding in the Russell, which is the small caps. So we've got the small caps. We've got some of the big techs. And they're all basically following the lead of the 2 years. Sometimes the equity markets are a bit dumb. You know, they kind of don't listen to the bond markets. The bond markets are way older than the equity markets. They're a bit like the wise old men, right? Too many markets have been ignoring this for too long, and it's all starting to come home. You know, if you're only really looking at the 2 years now, I've seen it popping up more on channels more recently. It's like, what on earth were they doing back in, even before October? What were they doing in, you know, end of September last year? What were they doing? What were they doing? If you're listening to anyone that's talking about bonds now and they weren't talking about them, you know, 3 months ago, like at least, you know, don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. Equity markets are integral to equity markets, and equity markets are only just catching up. This is the canary in the coal mine. So I've been short the 2 years, your 2 year notes. That's like since October. In Australia, when we look at the 10-year bonds, they've done a little bit. I've been short the Aussie 10-year bonds since like January last year. Right? So to me, it's like January last year. Whereas I'm just looking at my blotter here. Yeah, January 21. And where's that? Yeah. There, right? So I wrote it, wore it back, added some more to it, and it's gone off. But you can see here, I mean, this is a bit messier, right? You can see there's this big gap here to be filled, which it is filling, right? You know, so that was the big move down. This was the, you know, frankly ugly consolidation. Let's take it off the log scale. It makes it a bit easier for the yields. And as I said, with all these things, when it moves savagely. You know, there, and more recently again now. These things, good chance going up to 2.4%, right? Australia's inflation target is between 2 and 3, so to have a 10-year yield at 2.5, that is a very sensible level for the market to target. Yeah, so I've been short these since you know, January, you know, 21, right? You know, back here, right? I'm short the 3s as well. That's basically since October as well. I've been short the bunds. That's more recent. They've just started to tick over. But they're the trades that really, when we see what's happening in the Russell, right? it's got with a program, right? It gets it. It's got more to go. You know, potentially like another 13%, right? Some of these big tech stocks, well, they've got with a program now as well. So they've got the big end of town, the small end of town, getting with a program. Things like the NASDAQ could well see that dynamic really kind of start flying through, right? Because they've been getting it a little bit, they're getting it too. And then when that comes, keeps coming, you put all that together, you end up with a big move in the S&P. I don't know, 20%. Really, frankly, why not? So that's it. Gold, Bitcoin, silver, Afterpay, Spotify, Amazon, Peloton, the NASDAQ. They're all telling the same story, just some are slower than others. So watch those 2-year yields and watch out for that little pattern. Anyway, hope that's helpful. Catch you later. Ciao.